I just want to say that there's a stream going on right now as you watch this that is me reading every single Yu-Gi-Oh card in existence. Yes, the anime ones. Yes, the Rush ones. Yes, it's going to be absolutely a pain, and that's going to be what I'm going to be doing on stream until it's done. You can pay me to reset it, so this might go on for 4 days, for a week, for an entire year. I don't know. All I know is that it's going to be fun. So check out the Twitch, it's in the description, and absolutely enjoy the video.
Fusions have had a weird history in Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole. They started off as the idea of two unique beings being able to combine into another unique being sharing characteristics of both materials, like the fan-adored Sandwich. Over time, fusions became more generic, to the point that I would love for anyone to be able to tell me why two fluff balls can fuse together and become a dragon that thirsts for blood and anguish. In either case, there have been fusions all the way through the series, ever since Gaia hopped upon Curse of Dragon and proceeded to tame it, and we're here to talk about the best ones. These are the top 10 best fusion monsters in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. Unlike Xyz getting objective power creep on their real-life effects, fusions have a weirder take on the idea. Change the effects completely. It's certainly more interesting, but we'll just have to see who makes the list. Speaking of which, let's jump right in. First card on today's list stands tall with a wall of text, the Pendulum Fusion monster, Master Spirit Tech Force Pendulum Ruler. To summarize this behemoth, he's a light machine with 3500 attack and 3000 defense that requires Master Spirit Tech Force Pendulum Governor and one Spirit, the archetype, not the actual subset of monsters, monster. He can't be destroyed by battle and negates all of the opponent's monsters except for pendulums, whose level is equal to or lower than his. If that's not enough, he also lets you use a Pendulum Summoned Spirit Crystal monster's effect twice per turn, and if it does, that burn is doubled. His other effects aren't really noteworthy, however, as he can merely place himself in the Pendulum Zone and uses only Pendulum to return to the extra deck. Now this is not to say I know everything about the anime-exclusive Spirit Crystals archetype that this card purports to be in, but I have taken a quick glance at them, and they seem to be at least a lot better than the mirror imagines, so there's something there at least. The fact that it's a skill drain on legs is pretty easy to get out with cards like King of the Swamp and Goddess with the Third Eye, and proceeds to burn the opponent for thousands of points of damage, is a really good all-around band of effects. Reminds me of Lancelot. Jack of all trades, master of all to a certain degree. That needs a level 12! That makes him cool automatically. Our next monster is kind of a necrophiliac sadomasochist. Wow, I guess I should probably justify that one, huh? Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon is a level 10 dark dragon that grants his materials that are in the graveyard, may I add, effects, smacks you, the opponent, and every monster on the field when it dies, and uses said materials to revive itself. But in all seriousness, he gives its materials the effect to revive himself when he dies. Alternatively, if you don't want a 3300 attack beatstick that doesn't want to die, he can also nuke the board, and when he does, he burns both players for the combined original attack of all monsters they controlled that were destroyed. If you're in the mood for dealing damage and running over pesky number monsters, then he's got you covered there too. Once per turn, he can negate the effects of one monster on the field and reduce its attack to 0. Greedy Venom really suits its name, as he sure was greedy at the all-you-can-do buffet and smacked so many effects on himself that he physically couldn't contain all of them and had to give the leftovers to his fusion materials. It's a unique mechanic, and if this is what it goes into, it almost makes sense why this effect type doesn't really exist in the real-life game. That, and it would be a real bother to keep track of through a match. Either way, a monster that can deal this much damage is certainly something to be feared, especially considering the next card on our list. The next monster is a good boy, really the best boy. It's Ultimate Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. It's a level 9 Earth machine with 2800 attack and 2000 defense. Takes the mantle as Ultimate Hunting seriously by halving your opponent's life points when he's fusion summoned. Along with that effect, he can also attack 3 times per battle phase and has the standard Ancient Gear effect of locking the opponent's back row until the end of the damage step. Keep in mind that as powerful as this is, even the best cards have counters, and this one is continuous spell and trap effects. I may have been playing too much Duel Links on my Twitch streams recently, plug plug, wink wink, but cards like Mirror Wall and Golden Castle of Stromberg work well to counter this card if you don't have a fortress on the field, so be sure to search that with Wyvern before going for game, and then some with the Hound. A great card to boost up a fan-favorite archetype. Really, you should be asking yourself if your dog really is doing his best after seeing this great boy. I mean, look at our dog. She's great, but can she destroy your entire board and your life? Probably, don't test her. While the word virus has many connotations, they're usually temporary. You get over them, you get your flu shot, you carry on with your life. But imagine for a moment that to fight a virus, you had to blow it up yourself. Does that sound the least bit difficult? Well, Doom Virus Dragon agrees, and smirks as you agree with him. Doom Virus Dragon is a level 4 Dark Dragon with 1900 attack and 1500 defense that has one simple, short, not at all grand and terrifying effect. All he does is destroy all your opponent's monsters with 1500 or more attack whenever they hit the field, as long as Doom Virus is face up on your field. Ever. See, not too complicated. Just keep in mind you have to use the Fang of Critias and Crush Card Virus, or, you know, instant fusion, and then you can just revive him after he's in the graveyard if you really want to. He may not be big, but he sure as hell doesn't let your opponent set up a board to counteract him. Really just make sure that you have no way of countering diseases. Keep in mind that this was an original series card, so you may be able to say he's actually a disease that was eradicated 100 years ago that you really shouldn't have to fight anymore. Please vaccinate your children. Hey, remember Ancient Gear Hunting Hound? Lunalight Leodancer remembers Ultimate Ancient Gear Hunting Hound, and she's here to take the mantle of Ultimate in its place. To be fair, the materials for Leodancer are pretty stiff: Lunalight Panther Dancer and 2 other Lunalight monsters. Panther Dancer is also a fusion that also requires a fusion as a material, or at least they need to be cards that have the name fusion tag. Sorry, I got something caught in my throat. Leodancer herself is a level 10 Dark Beast Warrior that has a beefy 3500 attack and a thick 3000 defense. Leodancer just outright starts being broken by being untargetable by opponent's card effects, which is completely made moot by the continuation of this effect that it's unaffected by opponent's card effects entirely. She can attack twice per battle phase and Raigekis the opponent after the first attack, allowing her to attack directly afterwards. Exactly what Hunting Hound does, but with more protection and even more powerful in the swinging into face thing. She's also quite a bit easier to summon out, considering her whole deck is based on fusion summoning above all else, and Hunting Hounds take a little bit more work and out-of-archetype support to try and get out their boss monsters, especially considering their Omega boss monster, but we'll save him for another video. Back to Leodancer, she has so much protection that one of her effects is straight up covered by the other, and attacks face really, really hard. Not much else to say from there. She certainly knows how to make games end, and furries complete. Now, this is the second card the Kaiba uses with Fang of Critias, but this one can actually straight up murder your opponent instead of lock them down. Mirror Force Dragon is a light level 8 dragon with 2800 attack and 1200 defense that needs Mirror Force in order to be summoned. Mirror Force Dragon makes for great defense, as every time he battles an opponent's monster whose attack is equal to or greater than his own, being 2800, Mirror Force Dragon nukes their monsters and burns them for the combined attack they had, along with the difference in attack between Mirror Force Dragon and each subsequent monster with the lesser attack than him. This is simple as playing a good trap, fusing it with the spell inherently, and then summoning tokens for an OTK. You don't even really need to summon tokens if your opponent has weaker monsters, as they almost certainly will unless you come across Protect the Castle Boujins in 2019. Mirror Force Dragon has utility as well as really good OTK potential, so he's welcome in the top 5 slot. If you have ever summoned Chimera Tech Over Dragon and wanted to hit your opponent directly for hundreds of thousands of points of damage, well, now you can. The only real difference between real life and anime Chimera Tech Over Dragon is that the anime version can attack directly, and gets 1 extra attack. With Cyber Dragons being hard cast into the role of a rogue deck for a while, this buff to Overdragon may just be what it needs to become the terrifying powerhouse it was when Zane used him. Oh, Zane. The man that played a card game so badly that he actually real life died, and it was all just to prove a point. Such an absolute Chad of a human being, really someone to look up to. Self-destruction, kids. It's just kind of the way you do things. If you know me and you know my lists, you know that adding back a spell from your graveyard is kind of a really big deal to me. It's also just powerful in every way, shape, and form, to the point that forgettable monsters are found and would shape the meta if brought into real life. Elemental Hero Inferno, as well as having an Omni-Hero summoning condition as opposed to 2 specific OK monsters being Heat and Lady Heat, has the admittedly lackluster effect that we'll get out of the way first. When Inferno battles a water monster, he gains 1000 attack until the end of the damage step. His other effect, and the entire reason for being on this list, is that if he is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can take a spell from either graveyard and add it back to your hand. Not just your own graveyard, so keep in mind you can steal an opponent's Monster Reborn and just bring this thing back old school DMOC style. Sure, it has to die, but what's a deck that has a broken link, pops its own things, uses fusion summons, and is notably comprised of fire-type monsters? Metal Foes would make a perfect fit for Inferno to make your plays extend to high hell. Even in Heroes, this is another Mask Change or any emergency call, or any other generic great spell. And I guess if you're facing mermails, you can send the Fear of God into them from the other circumstantial and Ally of Justice-like effect, if you really want to. Our silver medal winner shares his name with most people who work in accounting, actually. My boy Matt over here is a level 10 light fairy monster that has no attack? Well, that is until you use his effect. You can declare a card name and draw a card. Then, if you drew the card you declared, you can do it again. And if you get it right, you can do it again. And if you get that correctly, you can do it again. And if you do that in a way that isn't incorrect, you can actually do it once more. And continue. If drawing cards wasn't enough, he gains 1000 attack for every card you drew with his effect, and no, they don't still have to be in your hand by the time they actually get drawn. Keep in mind that this card is summoned with Light and Darkness Dragon, a card easily searchable with Eclipse Wyvern with minimal setup, and Winged Karibo, a card directly searchable by his little magic flute. Convulsion of Nature straight up makes this card any FTK you want, which is a sentence I never thought I would say. Convulsion of Nature FTK. Jesus. Just tech in Exodia and Ma'at into a dragon deck, and you have a not bad FTK engine. You can also just run anti-magic arrows in case you fear that maybe the 40,000 attack beat stick will somehow be countered. Whatever you want, you can make sure that Matt files your opponent under the file, recently deceased. Number 1 is a crazy one, or should I say 2? Yes, the top spot is shared, because the only thing that can beat a consistent FTK is the one that if you can't get to it, that's the thing that seems inconsistent. Gladiator Beast Tamer Editor and Gladiator Beast and Diabate are a duo of powerhouse contact fusions that almost make up for the poor animation in the episodes they featured in. If you like those shots fired, let's get into their effects and show that these shots are lethal. Tamer Editor will start us off like he does with the FTK, as a level 8 Dark Beast Warrior with 2400 attack and 3000 defense that requires 2 level 5 or higher Glad Beasts. This antlered son of Bambi has the not-so-hard once-per-turn effect to just summon a Glad Beast fusion from either extra deck, including himself. Keep in mind that Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro decided to make him a little less idiotic, we'll say, by allowing to pop one monster on the field while you control 2 Glad Beasts and burn the owner for that monster's attack. In the anime, he could pop any monster and burn the opponent for the attack regardless. I think you see where this is going. He can also make any Glad Beast become like every other Glad Beast and shuffle them back into the deck at the end of the battle phase to summon a different one. Our next subject is a blind dinosaur that's blind to his overwhelming power, and also his annoying-ass summoning conditions. And Diabate is a level 8 Dark Beast Warrior with 1000 attack and 2800 defense that requires Gladiator Beast Augustus and 2 other Glad Beasts, but that's never how you summon him. He allows you to summon a Glad Beast from the extra deck when you summon him, however that monster returns to the extra deck after a battle, so no, what a shame. If you think all he does is give you a beat stick that runs away, then you're only half right. If a Glad Beast returns to the deck or extra deck, he gains their attack permanently. Finally, you have standard Gladiator Beast Fair, with him returning at the end of the battle phase and replacing himself with 2 Glad Beasts from your deck. But who cares about the battle phase? FTKs sure don't. This combo is incredibly consistent. Summon Tamer Editor, then summon another one, and an irrelevant Glad Beast fusion off of their effects. Volcasaurus, the irrelevant Gladiator Beast fusion, and then have the last Tamer Editor summon and Diabate, which by the way is pronounced that way as every time you summon him you are legally obligated to hit the hardest dab known to man. He gets to summon a Glad Beast from the extra deck, so get whatever you want. You now have 4 Glad Beasts on the field, so you actually go into one of the forgettable fusions, being Neurochius, shuffling back the Andabate and 2 used Tamer Editors, as all he needs are 3 Gladiator Beast monsters, and he's the only generic one. You then shuffle Neurochius and the irrelevant fusion back into the deck to summon back Tamer Editor. Now you have burned the opponent for the attack of one of your Glad Beast monsters, and you're right back where you started. Rinse and repeat. An FTK that just needs Glad Beast to do Glad Beast things, and straight up does what Magical Scientist did back in the day. And that does bring up a good point. Why is this number 1 if it dies to the fact that links exist? Well, people say Magical Scientist is one of the most broken cards ever made, and I agree entirely, but he was also nerfed by links pretty hard. So even though links make this combo incredibly difficult, if not impossible, the reign this combo had until then is stupid enough to leave a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of my life. Consistent FTKs tend to do that. Same reason you probably hate Substitoad and Mindmaster. So while it may not be the best now, just being really good cards in their own right, and the fact that they make Goyo Defender look pathetic for even trying to do the same thing, they were some of the most broken cards ever put to anime print. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.